All right, next morning. Now I've been scuffing, getting this thing ready to do the final one. Now I told you, one of the things I did, I grain filled the ends and I blotch controlled the rest of it. Without question, the grain filled ends gave me the best surface. Now, there's been some questions as, you know, that grain filling doesn't always do what I expect. You know, a lot of times it's not 100%, but man, it makes a big difference. Even with grain filling. Now the first key is to make sure that it's good and dry, because any finish, I don't care what it is, filler, anything, is going to shrink back as it cures. So what's a good, 24 hours with a water base, an oil base? It may even take a little longer. But what I want to show you is the difference. Now, this is African mahogany, and I'm going to say it again. African mahogany is far more porous than a genuine mahogany. It's also far less expensive. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this scuff pad and I'm going to scuff this. And you can see the white dust, but if you look, I've got a smooth surface. There may be a little bit of texture there, but not much from the wood. Now, on purpose to show you, I didn't blotch control, nor did I grain fill the back. I didn't do anything. You see the texture, and I have scuffed. I have scuffed and scuffed and scuffed. Well, this is okay. I mean, it's the back. And when I get another good coat on it, it's going to be fine. And the little grain showing don't bother me in the least. Now, what I'm doing right now is just a bunch of stuff, so stay with me. Now, once I'm scuffed, and I'm going to tell you this again, this is a point to where sand foos, particularly when you got to come back and do a fair amount of scuffing on a porous wood. Grain filled or not, you're going to have, so you got to put a finish on here. Enough finish that will help you. That you got something to scuff. You talk about rubbing out a finish, we'll talk about that when we get in the rubbing out segment. But one of the things, you got to have something to rub. Again, I'm going to say it, there's two ways of getting a nice surface. One, you got to work the wood. Two, you got to work the finish. In my world, you got to do both. I mean, if you've got a cherry or a maple or wood like that you've sanded up to a 220 and you just put an oil finish on it, it's going to come out slick and nice. You can sand an African mahogany, a walnut, to 1,000 grit. And those little pores are going to show up. Now let me say something. Listen close. If after I dyed this, even after I dyed this without a grain filler, what I could have done was taken some armor seal. Now I'm being specific with the armor seal. And the reason I am is, number one, the viscosity of it's a little thicker. The second thing is it dries hard. You can take and use armor seal, and in 24 hours, you can put a water base over it. It dries that hard. You can scuff it. Now, I like the Formby's tongue oil, but it's thin. Even the Minwax poly oil does fine. There's a lot of good oils out here. Waterlux, you know, goes on and on. But the Armor Seal has just proven itself to me time and time again. Now the issue is, a lot of you guys can't get Armor Seal. Now, California and a lot of, but you can't get it. But if I would have taken the Armor Seal and came back for the top of this die, that would have helped immensely. Here's why. What would have helped is the mechanical means of rubbing that oil. You don't want to brush it on and you don't want to spray it on. What you want to do is you want to take a pad or whatever and you rag and you want to wipe it on. And the reason for that is wiping it a good hard and pressing hard is going to work that oil into those pores. It's going to act kind of as a grain filler. Now, what about you guys who can't get it? You know, you're stuck. You're going to have to use a grain filler. That's that simple. Now you can take the aqua coat and thin it, but here's your problem. If you've got an alcohol or a water-based dye on here, and you come back over top of that, well, you're going to start pulling your color off, so you can't do that. But again, you can take that grain filler, thin it a little bit, take that same cloth before you do any, before you know, once you've pretty much done all your sanding, put a light coat on, you know, thin it about 10-15%, again, where it's about like mayonnaise, Duke's mayonnaise. Now, I know you guys ain't from the South. That's the stuff. I know. Eating tomato sandwiches with bacon and mayonnaise just last night. And I was paying attention to the consistency of the mayonnaise to make sure we got it right. Joke. Rub that first coat on. Rub it on real good. Let it dry. Do it again. Particularly on an African mahogany. And it makes it, and then let it dry good. Then do your final sand. Now, the other thing, again, is you know, we talked about the chatoyance and popping and whatever like that. You know, a light coat of either seal cell, or a coat of Armor Seal, and you can thin it too. Now, you thin the armor. You don't want to thin seal cell because it's already thin. But the Armor Seal, you know, you can thin it with mineral spirits or naphtha. Naphtha dries a little faster. You know, just in case y'all don't know this, you know the old Zippo lighters and charcoal lighter? That's naphtha. Okay. Now, this is a solvent base. Now, one of the things I like to do after I've scuffed is take a damp rag and I go over and I start wiping. This is a little too dry, but it'll do. And I'm wiping. Now, this is going to show me what it's going to look like when I get a finish on it. And in the case of something like this, it's going to show me if I've got any sand through. And I did. And I took my little touch-up pen, whatever I did with it, right? And where I had a couple edges, I touched them up. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about a touch-up pen. This is General Finishes walnut, and it happens to match this Mohawk light walnut we used. Now, we're not trying to make this mahogany look like walnut. The red in the mahogany is coming through. So, but anyway, yeah, again, I told you these things aren't much more than a magic marker with the wood colors. And if they get a little dry, turn the tip upside, turn it and let the tip soak up some alcohol. You know, magic markers are alcohol based. They're basically an alcohol dye. But if you got a color that's close but not 100%, take a little vessel, if you will, or whatever, and stick the tip in it and let it soak a little bit. Then let it set a little bit. You want some of that alcohol to evaporate off, and your color's on. Plus, it rejuvenates the tip. Now, here's another one. You know, if you've got a stain, and understand again, a stain is got the goop in the bottom. Dye doesn't have that. You can reach down and get a little bit of that goop and use it kind of as a touch-up sometimes. Often it'll be dark, but it works, kind of. But here's a better one. Stir it all up real good, get it mixed. Again, now that's exactly what this is. This is a little plastic cup. I got a bunch of them for $1 at the dollar store. And you put your dye in here, you put your stain in, you just leave it out. That lets the alcohol, same thing with a water base, that lets it evaporate off. The solvents in it evaporates off and you get a concentrate.